Fair enough.
I'm just gonna go live, and as I'm checking this and complaining, I'm gonna complain about. Hi, everybody. Welcome to discussing
Hi.
tabletop.
Hi, friend.
It's November 12th.
Yeah.
We were just doing some beginning stream chatting, and we were complaining about D&D, wizards in general. Magic changed. Go ahead.
Before we complain about this thing called Magic the Gathering for a little bit, I want to alert you, chat, to something that Twitch didn't really announce. If you buy or gift 2 subs, you will get 3 months of Game Pass.
I keep forgetting to talk about that, and it's a good thing to talk about.
So if you have, some gift subs you want to give, or want to sub, it's Game Pass for free.
Game Pass. Keep in mind,
It's a good service.
I should really say that more. It's like a...
Twitch didn't announce it, and I only found out about it today.
I found out about it a few days ago, but I'm so bad at shilling. Like, I can say, go check out Twitch, go check out my YouTube. That's about as shilly as I get.
I found out about it because I was listening to a podcast where they were complaining about the new ad stuff, and then that came up.
Jesus, Twitch. Come on!
One good thing and then 3 bad things, dude. That's so great. Anyways, we can complain about other things other than Twitch.
Oh yeah, Magic's the website got updated. It's terrible. It's really hard to see anything.
Yeah, it's not a great web. It's sleek, but it's not good for navigation.
Yeah, it's got some sleekness to it. The art direction doesn't feel great, even though it's sleek. That's not necessarily something you just want to focus on. They changed the fonts that they use a lot, and it's a little off. It feels a little too smooth, maybe is the way I want to say it. Like floaty art, font or something. I don't know, or maybe hard. Because it looks like the bold parts are very bold. Maybe might be too much, but and then my big complaint is unless you click on a news thing, you can't tell what the date is for these things. In their news thing, they don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And navigating their news thing is just awful. I don't know what this is anymore. Just
It's a thing.
I'll try to keep up with random Magic news, but they're doing their best to make it that I'm something happened in Magic. Okay.
The D&D website also isn't very good.
No, they did they did do a similar upgrade, but it wasn't as bad. I can still navigate to look over at oh, here's your products.
Yeah, it does still have the dates of things.
Oh yes, that's why I can be oh, these news articles, when were they from? A while ago. Okay, I don't have to worry about it. So yeah, we were all. I mean, I think both of us have been less enthused about both upcoming Magic stuff and D&D 1.
Yeah, D&D 1 with the dumbest name I've ever heard.
Again, I can understand. Sure, that
weird marketing, but no one's gonna call it that when it comes out. It's just gonna be called 6th edition.
Yeah. I don't know what they're going for. Their marketing team just seems dumb. If they think that this can win over someone or something, I'm the role playing community also we like keeping things honestly simple.
Simple numbers, dude. It makes it easy to find what you want.
Yeah, overly complex stuff is not something most of us go for. Even when we're playing a complex RPG, we prefer the stuff that's there cut and dry.
Or 5.5. That's what it's going to be called. Is 60 or 5.5?
It's not 5.5 though.
It's really not. I mean, I like some of the changes. I'm not impressed enough to care.
It's that weird thing from 3rd edition to 3.5. The changes felt like proper changes, rules updates, making certain things better, simplifying things that needed to be simplified.
This is the opposite of the 3 to 3.5 where things were simplified. They're making 5e more complex, which I don't feel fits 5e too much.
Yeah.
But, oh man, maybe it'll be good when it actually comes out. Look at it then.
Yeah, they really just need a 6th edition, honestly.
The UAs are not. Do not impress me.
So we got that, and I'm putting off talking about the full release of Brothers War until next week when it actually is full released. Because I don't think it's going to impress me, honestly. And that's the sad thing, is that, like, something that when it was announced, I was like, so cool. After everything that's kind of gone down over the past year and the part of the storyline that they've kind of moved into, it kind of has drawn away from that excitement. And that's the kind of thing I'm like, it's sad that I can say that, but it has. Like, when they were saying, like, oh, we're returning to Dominaria, and then we're going to do a Brothers War thing, and I'm like, oh, cool. Are they just going back and no? Like, I thought, even if they were going to do some kind of time travel thing, I was like, okay, you got Teferi, you can do some kind of time travel thing. Let's make it, I don't know, something. What are you doing? Phyrexia. You could have just had Teferi, oops, I fucking accidentally time traveled again. Because he does that every, 5 minutes.
He does time travel a lot.
Yeah.
It's like a thing or something.
So you could have done something. Anyway, we should talk about better things.
Those are sounds.
That's my soul, partially leaving my body.
Soul leaving, huh? It is a very short docket.
I took a look, and it's just there were some other topics that they're just not great, and I figured, let's just make it an easy day today. As much as I like trying to have at least, some content, but some of these things are just I just don't want to talk about it. Okay. Side tangent, because there was something that, I was going to complain about, because, USAopoly put out another Monopoly, and it was 1-for-1 that, honestly, I don't think either of us really know about or would really care about. But the fact is that it's one of the, highest rated TV shows. Yellowstone. That's, an actual network TV that does really well. I have no idea anything about it. It took people to be like, yeah, this show is really highly rated. And I'm like, who the fuck watches it? I don't know. They're doing a Monopoly based on it.
I've never heard of this show. I haven't had a TV since 2015.
Well, that's the thing is, honestly, if my mom watches it, I wouldn't know. I think she's got plenty of other stuff to watch, British crime shows and stuff like that.
I've never heard of this. It's got 5 seasons apparently.
Yeah. It must be an older generation thing at this point in time. But apparently it's popular enough and it got a monopoly. But I'm like, I don't know enough about this to talk about it.
Yeah, I just don't watch TV to know enough about television shows, right? If it's if it's movie or if it's movie based or a video game or something, then I can probably know enough about it. But I just don't watch TV.
Well, it's if there's something very good on TV, honestly, I will wait till you can find it online most of the time nowadays.
Yeah, I mean the last TV show I watched, I think, was not on TV, quote unquote, is Netflix. It's not really TV. I watched the Cyberpunk anime when that came out, and that was 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't watched a TV show since. I haven't even watched Andor yet because I don't care.
That's the one that I've said to myself, I'll wait till it's fully released, because honestly, it's low on my totem pole, but
after some of those shows, I don't think I really care anymore.
It's a mixed bag, so sort of I feel like maybe giving it a chance, but I don't know.
Apparently, it's the best one they've made. That's what people have told me.
See, people like it, and that's why I'm more giving it a chance.
Not
because
Kenobi, where it was incredibly divisive, right? Everyone seems to be this is actually good. It's Mandalorian season 1 good, apparently.
Yeah, and the thing is, I liked Kenobi. I can understand why people didn't like parts of it, but I thought it was fine.
My opinion was, it was fine. I don't really care about this character.
I think it should have been a movie.
Yeah, it would have been better as a movie.
Yeah, it was an elongated movie. I mean, I can talk to, like, just as a side tangent here. I did end up going for an afternoon showing of Black Panther yesterday.
Was that good?
It was pretty good. I think I agree that, like, I would put it at like a 7-8 out of 10 kind of point in there. It was a solid action-y movie. They did a good job with what they do. They didn't do anything crazy. They have some of their, like, world-building stuff, but none of it, like, whacks you in the face. The plot felt contained and fine. It's like one of those things, is I think we were talking about, you know, the issues with the Doctor Strange movie, and, like, it didn't have any of this because it was the right length, honestly.
Because I feel like, because I've watched 2 of the, what phase are they in? 4? 5 at this point?
This is the end of 4, apparently.
I've seen, like, 3 movies from it. I watched the whatever movie had rings in the title.
Shang-Chi.
Yeah, that one. That one I liked. Hated Thor: Love and Thunder.
Thor: Love and Thunder was partially a disappointment, but it was also, like, I think part of it was fine, but I think it was like they're just going too much. Right?
I didn't like Doctor Strange because I've never seen WandaVision, so I didn't understand what was happening.
See, that again, I can agree on that one. There's just so much issues with that one. Like, this is like a self-contained thing, and it was like, and it does a good job of, you know, honestly displaying, you know, characters dealing with grief, because, hey, the main actor passed away, so they have it basically at the, not a spoiler because it's going, you know, it happens. Yeah. He dies, like, in the first 3 seconds. They don't have to show anything, you know. It's sort of like, hey, you know, it's the scene of, like, his, like, the you know, the family trying to do stuff to try to help him out, and then it's like, oh, he passed away.
Yeah.
You know, and then
there's a respectful way to do it.
And then dealing with grief is a big thing on that storyline, and I'm like, that helps the movie a lot. Yeah. It's a movie that's, you know, yes, these are people that have, like, powers and stuff like that, but they deal with grief too. Makes it more human.
It's almost like, I don't know, half the planet got, you know, disintegrated, and then they just don't talk about it anymore.
You know, they do mention that a couple of times here and there and try to deal with it, but it's hard to deal with that. I
love that in Thor: Love and Thunder, there is a scene where there is an ice cream store, and, like, the sign is the Infinity Gauntlet, which feels so fucking disrespectful. Just like, wow, that's not okay for this universe, dude.
People will do that kind of... People do that stuff normally.
It's real life.
It's what... It makes it feel real. So, yeah, there's things to complain about in Star Wars and Marvel and all those things.
I watched something way more depressing than Black Panther. I watched All Quiet on the Western Front yesterday.
Oh,
that was a hard movie to watch, although I thought it was very good.
It's a classic, isn't it?
Not really a spoiler. The new adaptation, like, just changes the ending a lot.
Okay.
And I feel it has a weaker ending overall, but it's still, like, a pretty good movie.
Because I think I read that for school, the original book.
Yeah, the new movie ending is much less artistic, but way less realistic.
Wow.
Yeah.
I also just say,
I thought the movie was pretty good.
Trailers just have gotten stupider, I feel like, for, like, you know, the trailers they have in front of a movie. Like, it used to be much more like, you know, oh, I can see these, I can, like, kind of get an idea of, like, some stuff that's coming up, and then there's, like, just, some of them are fine, and other ones are just like, what is this, and what?
I meant this is mega side tangent, because I got reminded, because Starship Troopers turned 25 years old. It's a very old movie, great movie. I recommend you watch it. Don't watch any of the sequels, they're all terrible. But trust me, I've seen all 5 movies. They're all bad except for the first one.
God, I forgot about some of the later ones.
The third one has a musical number.
Is that the Marauders one?
Yeah, that's Marauders.
But
It's the worst one.
That's the last one I saw. Because they were supposed to have giant robots, and they really didn't. 3 seconds.
The other two are animated movies, which are fine.
Okay.
But I saw someone posted the original advertisement for Starship Troopers, and it tells you nothing about the movie, and it's just like, go see this movie. It's cool. Here's the release date. Here's some 90s music, because that's what, movie trailers were in the 90s. 30 seconds of go see this movie, which can tell you nothing about it. And now we get the whole movie in the trailer.
I was reminded that I kind of had someone on in the background that they were watching like old intros to cartoons from like the 90s and stuff. And there was anybody remember the CG doesn't age well. The CG Starship Troopers?
Oh, I loved that show.
It is a really good show. The CG does not age well.
No CG from the 90s aged well.
Yeah, but honestly, that was really cool when it was like Starship Trooper Roughnecks or something, where like,
it's actually like a really good show. It's just really hard to watch because it's very ugly.
It really is,
It's like Babylon 5 is disgusting to look at now.
It's that sad thing. It's like, yeah, I remember I tried to go back and watch Babylon 5, and I'm like, yeah, like, it's like I can go back and watch something like the Stargate SG-1 series and stuff, because
reboot, yeah, they're very ugly nowadays.
But like anything, because that's still like 2000s, and I feel like 2000s can still be passable.
Yeah,
but like 90s stuff, like when they try to go a lot of that computer stuff, it just doesn't work. And maybe that was cheaper than a lot of the practical things, like a.
And the thing is, it isn't cheaper; it's more expensive.
They should have gone with practical, like Star Trek, and been better.
That's because it's like this is new technology; it gives them the advertising edge.
Anyway, I got a topic here, but we didn't have a lot. We were probably side tangent.
There's probably gonna be a lot of side tangents this episode.
So this one, it's a 5e setting thing, and it's technically a setting version of a setting thing. I don't know if we've talked about Gene Funk, which was like a weird biopunk / cyberpunk D&D setting.
But I do know the genre though.
Yeah, we might have mentioned it at some point in time, but this one is supposed to be like a jungle filled with like, carnivorous plants, insidious parasites, narco-terrorists, mad scientists, monstrous beasts, mutagenic viruses, horrible kaiju, and diabolical physiological AIs, psychological AIs. So yes, I mean,
jungle adventure.
I think that's like one of those things is like taking something that you kind of had established with like a core book, and I feel like this is a good direction that you can kind of add on to it. That's kind of neat, actually.
Yeah.
I like the kind of setting and adding a lot of stuff to it, because honestly, this feels like they're doing kind of environmental settings without doing environmental settings. Is that a way to say it?
It's like a good side thing.
Yeah. So it's like you can have a bunch of adventures here, but you don't necessarily like have to have the entire thing.
It is almost funded too.
It is. 26 days to go.
We'll probably reach this one.
Very good chance of it, and for $15 you get the PDF. Actually, yeah. So there's 2 other books that they've put out, and like that'll be one of them. But for $22, you get all 3 of their PDFs that they put out. Because they are setting like I guess a future version of Earth. This is supposed to be more like Peruvian.
Korea book.
Yeah, there's a Korea book. And the core book. And this is supposed to be like Peruvian jungle, but I guess it could be Amazon in general. Like in a weird...
Yeah, South America.
Mm-hmm. Probably easily adapted to any of those areas in South America.
There are a lot of jungles in the world.
There are. It's not a bad art style, too. I like the kind of show-off stuff here, the kind of things they show. Yeah. I don't know what else to say, honestly.
Well, I like the art. I don't know anything about the system, but I like expansions like this.
I mean, it's technically 5e, but again, it's like that one of those things is someone took 5e as a shell and did something with it.
They took just the D20 licenses and were like, here, we'll make our own thing.
Yeah. So if you're familiar with 5e, it's probably a slightly more complex, more interesting version of 5e. Check it out. Kind of like
cool.
Honestly, it was like that Star Wars system. The Star Wars system was such a breath of fresh air.
There's a Mass Effect one that's pretty good too.
So like, I wouldn't mind trying that. I don't know anything about Mass Effect.
Because I do want to run it, I can give a very simple rundown of the time period, because I would probably set it like kind of early.
Yeah.
To avoid the dumb Mass Effect 3.
Aha! There was just
and pick a color that's trended.
Mass Effect.
I know the story behind that one, and it's very oof.
But what about Andromeda?
We don't talk about. I actually think Andromeda is fine now that it's fixed.
Yeah,
I've heard it's just a very boring game.
Well, that's the thing that's what I've heard from people. It's like it's fine. It's just not great. It's not like as bad as people make it out to be.
Against the first 3 Mass Effect games, which were all very well received, except for Mass Effect 3's ending.
Yeah.
Now I have Mass Effect 4, which no one knows that's about.
Will it exist?
It does. It's in development, I guess.
Oh, hey. I didn't know that. Also, because probably I don't know game news
Keep
anymore.
putting out the same promotional image every year.
It's the thing of what do I know about what's in development? Honestly,
Shit about games that are coming out, dude.
It's most of the time it's like I happen to catch someone streaming like, hey, there's somebody doing announcements, and I'm like, oh, what announcements are there? And then I'm like, I don't really want to sit through all of this, so then I'm like, I'm going to come back to you when it's a VOD and just fast forward to the points I want to see.
There's a Pokemon game coming out.
There is. I care about that.
Callisto Protocol, which looks cool. There's a bunch of Silent Hills that I don't care about.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 4 again.
Yeah, Resident Evil 4.
Dead Space again. It's really like we've traveled back in time, because I was at the store a couple days ago and I saw an advertisement on like snack foods for the movie Avatar and Modern Warfare 2.
God, that's right. There was a commercial for Avatar.
We've gone back to 2009.
I don't know what's going on in this movie. It's like it's got water, okay?
That's the thing. I don't remember what happens in the first movie. I just remember the hair sex.
There's some guy that has some dances with wolves with weird blue aliens. It just dances with wolves. And then, the army attacks and they fight them off or something. And I guess the army's back or something. I don't know.
That it looks nice back in 2009.
Yeah.
I will say, I watched the trailer. It doesn't look as good as it did in 2009. Because it's all CGI. It doesn't ever look that good.
Yeah. We weren't used to it as the same back then, And
that was new back then, It was pushing the boundaries of technology. This one isn't.
Yeah, it's corporations bad, natives good. And it's doing it again, but I don't know. They can't do the Dances with Wolf storyline, which is what they did before.
They'll rip off something else.
Yeah, but with water.
Yeah.
Got an ocean now. I don't know. I was going to say, honestly, it's the thing of, I usually like the new Pokemon nowadays because it's like since I got back into things with Pokemon Go, it's sort of like I like honestly seeing what designs I can say that's stupid or like that's kind of neat,
Oh, shit about Pokemon. I know that there's an olive in the new one. There's the cat again.
There's always a cat.
The duck.
There's duck.
There's a hot lady professor, and then there's a dude professor. I don't know why there's 2 professors.
There's motorcycle lizards.
Dude, motorcycle lizards look really dumb.
They can change into boats or...
My favorite thing is they don't use the wheels. They just run.
I think the the blue
one flies because it doesn't have legs.
Yeah, it's the other one front. I'm sorry,
it has wheels on it, but it runs.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm not gonna play the game. I don't own a Switch, but if I owned a Switch, I wouldn't play it anyway.
I own a Switch. I'm probably not gonna play it.
I'll collect stuff and then comment on it when it comes out in Pokemon Go in like 4 years.
Yeah, like, man, I don't know. This is like, I don't know. Give me more Zelda or Mario.
Look, you know, it's the meme of it. What is it now? The Garbodor or Guzzlord. Guzzlord.
What the fuck is a Guzzlord?
I don't know if this will show up correctly. Let me check Discord to see if it does. That thing there.
What the fuck?
It's an Ultra Beast from Sun and Moon.
What is that? Why does it exist?
It has like claws coming out the side of its mouth.
What the hell is an Ultra Beast? That sounds like a kaiju. They
were in the Sun and Moon, which was like 2 games ago, and it was supposed to be like weird alien creatures. So they
fuck is an Ultra Worm? Why? This isn't This isn't the Pokemon I remember.
Yeah, they added like aliens or something. They're all really. Oh, Sexy Roach. Unnecessarily sexy Roach too.
There's always just an unnecessarily sexy Pokemon each generation.
But there's it's another one of the Ultra Beasts. God, what the fuck is it called? They're all so weird.
Because I did watch some shiny hunting
it's the one they were going after, that like little weird roach.
The one that has just stockings.
Yeah, the one that's just like stockings. That's like it's just like the long legs. The roach monster. There's also like honestly Buzzswall, which I love. It's great because he's
just a buff bee.
It's just a buff mosquito, man. They're Ultra Beasts. They're really weird, and I'm like, honestly, I kind of just like them. Look, they're just funky little shits.
It's the inevitability that half of all Pokemon in a generation are just someone's persona. That's so true. Pokemon now.
Look, they're putting out 7 gen stuff in Pokemon Go now, and like honestly, there's a lot of stupid shit. But like the Ultra Beasts, they're weird and kind of funny.
Sounds like something that would exist in like Ultraman.
Yes, honestly, maybe someone was watching Ultraman and was like, "How about these?" I can see that. But yeah, no, that's things that are coming out. Hey, let's switch to some role playing stuff, and then we'll get off topic again.
I think the title of this episode should just be off topic.
God. Eats' Guide to Dragonbonding. It's a 5e supplement. I guess it's for using dragon companions and dragon combat and dragon magic and stuff. And it's neat. Honestly, guess what it is? Super funded. People like dragons. I mean, it's of all the weird stuff that came out, that's just like more D&D random supplements. This one seemed kind of neat.
I mean, dragons have been done so dirty in 5th edition that I feel like this is needed.
I think that's the other thing too, is that like Fizban's guide I think it made things worse.
It at least gives you like, this is how they would act, but that's kind of all you get.
Well, it's sort of like 5e simplified such things by like, hey, let's remove reduce it down to like about half to a third of the age categories they had, and let's get rid of some of the sizes, so you can't have that variation as much anymore.
The most upsetting thing is that they made deep dragons really, really dumb looking. Deep dragons used to be purple dragons, which looked really cool in 3.5e.
Yeah.
But in 5e, they look dumb.
I'm gonna look this up. Deep Dragon 5e. Let's take a look at this image. What is that?
That's what they look like now.
It's got the little almost like fishy head and a weird white.
That's what purple dragon became. I don't understand why.
Now, granted, they did have freaking pupilless eyes, but if I look at the old design, they were just they were slick and actually had eyes that
Granted, the one thing I can say about the Deep Dragon design is it does look like something that would only live in a cave. However, nothing else in the Underdark looks that way.
Why does it have its mouth open like it's like a gaping fish or something?
I don't know. I hate this thing.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, they also brought back, like, technically I think they brought back Shadow Dragon, and they brought back Gem Dragons.
ugh.
Which are cool, but, like...
Oh, Mind Flayer Dragon's an awful thing. It's just awful.
Oh, yeah, the Mind Flayer Dragon is really disgusting.
So they have, like, Dragonbonding. It's 300 pages. It's 31 setting-specific player options. Information for, like, aerial battles with dragons. You know, like 50 monsters, too, because why not? Probably dragon-based.
I mean, more dragons are good. More dragon-adjacent things are good, because Fizbin didn't have any kobolds in it.
It's a template for Shadow Dragons.
It is a template, yeah.
They no longer deserve to be their own thing.
They don't do a lot of templates. There's like, I only know of like 3 templates in 5 years.
Well, you know, now they no longer get to be their own thing.
Nope, just template.
No, just template.
Just do 'em. But yeah, I mean, more dragon stuff is good because, I mean, dragons are like actually a very important part of the team. Fun fact, it's in the title.
Mm-hmm.
However, you rarely get to fight them. In 5e especially, because they're just kind of garbage.
Yeah. Hmm. Oh, God. I mean, I'll tell you, like, at least, like, 3 class... See, this is the thing, is they don't have architects. They have 3 classes, and one of them actually, like, honestly... The Dragon Hunter is kind of interesting because you know what it reminds me of? Monster Hunter. You know, it's you've rend the bones of your fallen foes to gruesome armor and weapons abused with draconic power.
Monster Hunter.
It is
cool.
It could probably be easily adapted to like if you want to do a Monster Hunter game. Honestly.
I mean, yeah, I mean that's just cool, and that involves crafting, which doesn't actually exist in the
And there's also someone that uses draconic rune magic, and someone that uses dream magic, and so neat. And some archetypes.
Yeah, I mean, some spells too. I mean, books like this are kind of needed because 5e gives you a very broad stroke thing, and then they kind of just expect you to fill in the rest.
It's the sad thing that, like, go ahead.
It works, and it doesn't work at the same time.
Yes. I think it works when it's something simple that when you're filling in the gaps, you don't have to do a lot of work. It doesn't work when it's huge gaps where you're like, I need like a class or an archetype or a spell or a feat or, magic items to fill in this gap. No. Or major rules. And you're just like, you do something with this interaction. You fly. There you go.
Clarified some of that, I guess, but I mean, I just want magic prices.
That'd be nice. Well, this one, like, it's fun. If you want to have like some more dragon stuff and like have like dragon companions for your team.
Yeah, dragons are good.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
There's technically rules for your party to be financed by a dragon. That there are rules for that.
So
yeah, you could have your party be financed by I don't know, a gold dragon or something.
Yeah. So it's neat. Check it out. And one more Kickstarter, and then just something I like. Yeah, because that makes sense that you're only ever looting them. The fact is that I think side tangent. That's a big one here.
Tangent number 3.
But this is a related tangent, at least.
Yeah.
Freaking magic items. I understand they're an important part of loot, but the fact is that most magic items, no matter how much you as the DM think your players will love this, guess what? They're probably not.
They're probably just going to forget it exists.
Yeah.
Most of the time. Yeah. Oh, God.
The convenience of shopping on your own means they can customize this intricate part that actually is very important to your character, even in 5e, because you reach that point in time where, like, things are like, you need magic items to do more damage to it. Fuck you if you never got them.
Yeah, like, and it's just not, because I'm fine with not having, like, set prices. Like, this magic item costs this amount of gold, like, you know, older editions did. I would be fine if it had just a smaller scale or range of price for rarity.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna be 100% honest, there are some, like, very rare items that are garbage, and then there are some, like, uncommon items that are, like, game breaking.
I think that's the other thing, is they don't balance that out very well.
No, because the prices are based on rarity, not item.
Yeah. And so something that could be very common is very cheap. It's something that, and actually,
AC boosting items are very powerful, and I believe they're only rare.
Mm-hmm. So, anyway, I put that in the chat. The next thing we're talking about. Which Faded Souls Second Edition? It's basically an urban fantasy role playing game about people that sold their soul to a demon for, I'm guessing, power, as this usually is. Yeah, major versus minors and creating rarity scales. Yeah. So it's a modern day dark fantasy game. You play a witch who sold your soul to a demon for power. But the thing is, I guess it's sort of like there's a redemption arc, because it's sort of like you did that originally, but you could still hope for redemption if you can outwit your demon and maybe like get your soul back or something. So it's supposed to be a lot of like the modern-y, supernaturally dark fantasy kind of TV shows. It draws in a lot of things from, like, so I guess Supernatural is the big one to like mention that it kind of takes stuff from. So you're fated, which is what they call witches in this one, and you know your backstory tells you why you took this deal for power or whatever else, to get magic and stuff, and then you know, it's more about like, oh hey, I regret my deal, you know, later on or something on, and maybe I have to do something about that. Yeah. So.
It looks interesting.
Yeah. So.
Super funded.
Super funded?
Very much funded.
Yeah. Working on that, 200% funded. They didn't ask for a huge amount. English, please. Work.
No English.
I know. It never works for me. 8 days left. Where's anything that says system here? It's a D6 pool system.
One thing I did see that I did find interesting is you don't roll to use your spells; they just happen.
Okay.
Which is pretty interesting. But if you cast magic, like when you cast it, adds to your like level of magic, which you know, leads to, if you have too much, things get bad for you.
Okay.
Which I think is pretty cool. So that's a neat balancing mechanic.
Okay, so it's a little like it's a little like mage is in White Wolf. Now, mage, you still have to roll to do things, basically, because you're doing intricate things. But the idea is that you can do infinite magic in mage. It's just the more complex, the bigger things you do, the more you have to worry about. There's a natural backlash to the universe to it.
Yeah.
So they have a quick start, download. I know for
Crunch are always good.
Free RPG. And as I said, it's a D6 system. You use a pool of D6s. So I like a good D6 system.
I do like D6.
So $20 gets you the PDF and all the stretch goals.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know what to say about that.
Pretty good.
See, like this, I like this. This is nice. This is a nice, interesting thing to talk about. We haven't talked about something like this really. There we go. I have a shout out for this only because I am a fan of the game. Not because I would purchase this thing, because honestly, it might be a lot of the stuff I already have. But Carcassone Big Box, 2020. I like Carcassone. I haven't played in a while, but I own a box filled with goddamn tiles somewhere around here, behind me somewhere.
Nice.
Draw it out and figure out what to do with all the goddamn tiles, because there's a billion of them. And they basically, these big boxes are a group of the original game. So if you don't have that, you can get that, along with a bunch of the I guess expansions. Yeah, expansion's the word. Which they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 expansions that are added onto the base game. Okay, so it does say it's 11 with expansions. And the thing about this one is it's got updated newer rules and stuff and things like that. They do offer these occasionally. What they do is they sometimes change the expansions that are in them, which doesn't help if you're looking for older versions of the expansions, let me tell you that. Because they don't reprint them. Oh, really. Carcassone's a classic. It's a tile-laying game. I might have played it on Sundays of the Tabletop at some point. I don't remember. Yeah. Deeper discussion topic. Wow. I didn't even think about that today.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, you know, it's one of the... yeah. Sure. You know what? I'm going to grab this one because, honestly, we talked about some stuff that would be relating to it. Adapting media to my RPG game.
Oh, shit.
Because, yes, there's a Star Wars 5e game. Yes, there's a Star Trek game. But honestly, what about Babylon 5? If you wanted to play in Babylon 5. Now, there is an older RPG for Babylon 5, but it's older. It's like...
yeah, it's ancient.
It's ancient now. The rules and stuff. Like, if you pick up an ancient RPG, granted, sometimes you can still play them. Sometimes they're still closer to modern-day things. But a lot of times, we have learned a lot of stuff that have made and streamlined RPGs a lot easier.
Yeah.
So, what do you do if you want to play that and adapt it to something? This is an issue that can come up a lot of times, especially like... I think it's the idea that you can find worlds and ideas that you want to use in your games, and like, you know, you can certainly beat for beat play something. You know, I could play a Babylon 5 world. What if I want to adapt it somehow without using all the, you know, in quotations, because it doesn't really matter on your own when you're just doing it for fun with people anyway. Your fun games, copyrighted material, you can make stuff your own, but that's also still adapting it. Little phlegm in my throat.
Oof, gross. Yeah,
I
I mean, like, I've certainly adapted stuff into RPG systems before. I mean, it's not too bad to do, especially when the open licenses exist for like D20 and 2D20 now.
Yeah, those help.
But you have to have a pretty in-depth knowledge of those systems to really make it. And if you're making a custom system from scratch, you can't really do it on Roll20 unless you really know how programming works.
I think the thing is, when you adapt something, you have to ask like a number of questions. The first is, am I going to use a pre-existing thing or make my own? Honestly, pre-existing systems help. And there are plenty of systems that, you know, maybe it's... The thing is, like, I can say, like, a Bessem game, I could do pretty much anything in. But the problem with Bessem is Bessem. Yeah. It's always going to have the same kind of rule set. And those rules set might not fit the flavor very well of whatever you're adapting. I'm going to say, that's something that I came across when I was talking about, like, different animes that you can... how to adapt into Bessem. Some of those... You can play you can have adventures like that in RPG. Even in Bessem, they don't fit very well. A lot of like grounded shit is hard to play in Bessa because you get a lot of like the entire game system is have a fucking bajillion weird powers, knock yourself out, and so like making your own system, you gotta be good at that. Adapting something, like think like 5e. You gotta know a lot of 5e to adapt stuff to 5e.
5e has the advantage of it is a very easy to adapt system, at least.
Yes, that's a good thing about it.
It's just I wouldn't really call it rules light, but it is a simpler system than a lot of others, especially in the 2d20 genre.
Rules streamlined. Maybe that's
it's very streamlined.
Yeah.
I know that I am slowly adapting 2d20 to fit a Dead Space game, because 2d20 would be the easiest for me to do it because 2d20 has built-in limb targeting, which a lot of d20 systems don't have. So you'd have to build a whole system around limb targeting, which can be annoying because it's a lot of tables and stuff.
Yeah.
Certainly, something like Traveler or Stars Without Numbers is a simple enough system that you can mold it into pretty much any sci-fi world for the most part.
Yeah.
More grounded sci-fi worlds work better. Those Stars at least has a quote-unquote magic system. It's not very good, but it does have magic. But it also has psionics, which would fit for your more grounded stuff.
I think
I've not read Traveler in like 10 years, so I don't really know how good Traveler would be for that.
Well, I'd have to talk to Worm, but honestly, it sounds like it'd probably still be a lot of work to adapt things. Not that it would be terrible or impossible, just, work. And how much work you're willing to put in sometimes is an important part of it. I think it's the thing that's also, like, what you want to pick up and adapt is just the questions of, like, are you adapting the story, the settings, or the mechanics that seem to work? And certainly, like, usually if I'm doing some kind of media adaptation, maybe I'll be doing setting. Mm-hmm. Not always. Like, you could do something it's inspired by, but it could be its own thing. But setting is usually the main thing. Normally when you're adapting stuff, that's what you want to do. You know, if I'm going to do my own... oh, hi, Worm. You'd have to steal from other systems. Okay. So that's the entire thing, yeah. So if you wanted to add Magic Traveler, you could. And I think that's the thing is, there's flexibility in a lot of systems that allow you to use them. Again, we're not going to talk about the make your own system for this, because honestly, that's just building your own RPG system in general.
You're making your own thing, which is a whole nother discussion.
Yeah. Picking up 5e or Shadowrun or Bessem or World of Darkness's base rules or Traveler and trying to figure out how to fit that into my thing. 5e, it's very good for fantasy type things.
Yeah, 5e is very good for fantasy. I think that in a lot of ways, Pathfinder also a very just good generic fantasy.
Mm-hmm. Like,
I wouldn't say Starfinder is good generic sci-fi, just because Starfinder has very specific technology mechanics.
Yeah. Traveler might be more generic sci-fi.
I know at least Stars Without a Number is very easy for generic sci-fi, but you're going to be playing a much older style RPG, which can be harder to get players for.
Yeah. It's that thing.
I've had my issues with OSR games, but genuinely OSR games are very generic.
It's figuring out how much you want to take is like that next huge step. That's the big thing. Is what am I taking from this? What am I making? Am I remaking a story? Am I making my own story? Ah, we're
I
mis-
agree, but having played it like 3 times, I've come to not like such stuff.
yeah.
It's too limited of a system.
But like, what was I going to say about this? Because I had something to say, and my brain keeps getting distracted. It's like the fine tuning is just one of those things. Like setting, I think that's what I was working on. Setting, that's like probably the easiest one to do. Like I could take, let's say, Buccaneers of Shackle Sea. I'm using Galarian. I honestly could replace everything from there with another sci-fi world if it had enough detail, or a fantasy world. We could make it sci-fi if I had enough details for that. Hey, you're on some kind of space pirate ship or something.
I bet you, with ease, you could make. I mean, it would still take a little bit of work because the NPCs and enemies, right?
Yeah.
But I bet you could do Skulls and Shackle in Starfinder pretty easily.
Mm-hmm. And again, like that works for any kind of like it's a pirate adventure, and there are other types of pirate adventures you could have, and different places you could have them. Like you could make it honestly in like a maybe in quotation you could make a realistic version on Earth if you wanted to do. It's like just make it historical, get rid of all the magic. It's hard to do, but it's possible.
You could certainly do it easy enough.
Yeah. There are things you can do like that. And so setting is probably, out of everything, easiest.
Setting is like the easiest because I mean, like if I wanted to run, I don't know, we'll say Elder Scrolls world because it's an interesting world. Any generic fantasy RPG works for that because it's a generic fantasy setting, right? Do you want to run Star Wars? Star Wars is a pretty generic sci-fi setting.
My brain is forgetting it. Something that Lightning suggested. Skies of Arcadia. I could do Skulls and Shackles in the world of Skies of Arcadia.
Yeah.
It's sky ships, sky islands, pirates. That's the role-playing game at its core. I could take that setting, throw the entire storyline into that, honestly.
Wouldn't change much.
Yeah. Like, you're just at, like, a set of islands that are technically a pirate haven,
The only thing you have to work on is all the water bits.
Yeah, you'd probably have to just... I think there's things you can do for that. But, like, also, like, hey, guess what? They have a kind of, like, storyline of, like, an evil empire. Hey, guess what? They're just the people you're opposing, then, as an empire. So, Chelix. Hey, look at that. Now, mechanics... That could be a hit or mix because whatever you're adapting, a lot of times they have their own way of doing things, and like
the mechanics of a pre-built world they're specific to that world, and a lot of times the back-end details of how they actually work in universe aren't present a lot of the time because sci-fi glosses. This is an example for sci-fi. Sci-fi glosses away a lot of how technology works.
Yeah.
Fantasy tends to gloss over how magic works.
Yeah. Something like D&D and Pathfinder, because they're much more in-depth systems, tend to at least give you a basic idea of how they work because you're playing in it. But like in a book or like a TV show, a movie, anything like that, they don't really need to a lot of times.
Yeah. There's a lot you can hand-wave in that kind of media because it doesn't need the mechanics. Like it again, I was going to continue using Elder Scrolls as an example because it's one of the more well-known fantasy settings. The magic system in Elder Scrolls is not similar to a majority of tabletop RPGs.
Yeah, I can see that.
Now, it's easier to adapt that world for a couple of specific reasons. That world starts as a D&D game. Most of the big video game fantasy settings were originally D&D settings. It's a very simple fantasy setting of you got sword dude, you got mage dude, you've got healing mage dude, so you've got your basics for D&D there. But your magic system is never going to be the same because of how mana works in that setting, it's always regenning. That's not mechanically how it works in tabletop RPGs most of the time.
I think it's the thing that you can also say, like, you can compare it in a way because, like, time travels a lot faster when you're, like, let's say Skyrim. If I'm in Skyrim, you know, a day-night cycle, because they have those kind of, doesn't take nearly as, like, takes very little time in comparison.
It takes about 15 minutes.
Yeah. So think about that. Is if your character would have rested over that 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, that day.
It'll never be 100% because you are trying to mimic a video game which has very different mechanics.
Yeah.
But you can get close enough with some simple explanations.
Mm-hmm. Explaining that, hey, that's that day-night cycle. Hey, maybe the normal characters would have rested over that time. Your character doesn't sleep. They could have rested, gotten back all their abilities. They could have had a number of spell slots that you can just use up, you know, or things like that.
Dragon Age, which is another pretty generic fantasy setting, is a lot easier because magic in that game is just a cooldown.
Mm-hmm.
So you could just apply spell slots in replacement of a cooldown, and it's, you know, that you've explained that away easily.
Yeah.
Magic is also very simple in Dragon Age. It's very simply explained. They actually go into the mechanics of magic in that setting, so that one is a lot easier to talk about and adapt than a lot of others.
And a lot of things is, like, some of the things, like, if we talk, like, novels, TV series, like Divinity, like, that's not
You can easily adapt Divinity.
Yeah.
Because it is, in itself, is already halfway to being a tabletop RPG.
Yeah. It would just be, you'd have, like, a certain number of spell slots and stuff like that, you know. And, I'm just saying, like, beyond fantasy, even, like, if we're talking, like, you know, well, beyond, like, video games, like, let's talk, like, you know, granted, there are Lord of the Rings the RPGs, but if you wanted to adapt it to your own thing, and, like, something like 5th edition, honestly, like, you know, low magic, like, maybe there's one wizard who's, like, you know, got, like, their spells, and, you know, Gandalf technically casts shit, not often.
The problem with Lord of the Rings is the way that magic works in Lord of the Rings is not how magic works today in fantasy. Lord of the Rings, the only real spells and this is because Gandalf isn't allowed to cast a lot of magic as he is a literal angel.
Yeah.
He's not allowed to fully intervene. Man has to deal with the problem on its own. He cast the examples you see, at least in the movie, I believe he cast them one book, is he casts some light spells, some manipulation spells, some mind stuff. He technically stops an earthquake at the end of the 3rd movie. So he is a wizard, but he's not a wizard in the same way. So it could be the easiest way around is just be like, all right, no wizards.
Yeah.
Gandalf is more of a cleric, is what I would compare him to. A cleric or even a bard type character.
I think it's like you can find ways. Like I think, like, let's talk about one of the ways I tried to do things when I was doing the Mega Movie Monster Tabletop Drive-In. I came up with, like, you're sort of playing the same classes you would in D&D, but here they're flavored in different ways, you know. That might make more sense for some of these settings and stuff. That didn't take a lot of work, but that was so work, and that was kind of like a generic 50s monster movie kind of setting I kind of put together. Jankly.
Your horse was a class feature.
You
had to have the horse.
You had to have the horse. I think you could have played a version of that character that didn't have a horse. I'm just saying, Lightning. You chose horse.
The horse was a class feature.
It was a class feature. And I didn't know what to do with it, because you're like, why did you choose a horse in this game?
Well, why did we bring a Tabor Boy to all these dangerous situations, right? Like, that game was kind of scuffed from the first session when the Tabor Boy was introduced.
I really should have been more like, yes, you can't play these.
Make it adult.
Please don't play these things. Ranger horse was the only choice. I'd have to check. I probably should have made more choices there. Honestly. That could have been something on me, honestly.
Horse made that game better. That's all I'm saying.
Oh yeah, because like none of the other options were great. Were great comparison to Animal, but like I mean like honestly, Horse is not great. I don't know.
Horse was funny. That's all that matters.
The Horse was at least funny. I think that's the thing is like you can have some fun with this stuff. You know, we've talked about setting easy mechanics. Story. That's a tough one. Like, I think the thing is, if you want to adapt a story, adapt the bare bones of a story.
Yes, adapt the story beats, not how the story is done. Like I have ripped off story beats, 100%. Like I've done it. I've ripped off shit.
Yeah.
I could run the entirety of Dragon Age Inquisition in a D&D game, but because it wouldn't be hard because it's not a complicated story, right? But I don't want to because that's not my story.
Yeah. Another thing is, I have had urges in the past, which you know, like I'm like, I can see a story and I could do a version of that. You know, and I think that's something that I think is where people come in. It's like you watch something like Lord of the Rings or something, you're like, I would love to like, you know, have my players do something cool like that, you know, and like the thing is, you can come up with a story that hits those kind of epic beats of like the Lord of the Rings story and has a very similar feel, but isn't, you know. The basic idea is, we'll put it this way, use the halflings, the, you know, hobbits. I'm sorry. I got to do it right. They're basically halflings. The hobbits, as your example. They're a group of people thrust into a situation. Hey, they're players thrust into a situation where they have to help defeat an ancient evil that's returning that involves destroying the artifact that's at the core of it that happened upon the lapse of one of them. They go on an epic journey across the land, visiting many places and facing many dangers. There you go. That's the basic of it.
There you go. Right. Easy enough.
Add all your own details to those places and stuff like that, and the dangers and NPCs they face.
Yeah. If I'm doing a world, which is not super common, and I do use a pre-existing setting, the most I'll do for story is I'll have the actual story as a background that's going on. The players aren't really involved in it, but it's there. They can mess with it if they want to.
Yeah.
But the players have their own story they're doing, right? So, like, if I would do, because I plan on eventually doing Fallout and Mass Effect, I would never have the players in a Fallout game directly involved in the courier storyline from New Vegas.
Yeah.
I would never have my Mass Effect players doing what Shepard does in Mass Effect or getting involved with what Shepard is doing, but I would give them updates on how, say, the Reaper War is progressing.
Yeah. It's the thing is, like, you can... I think I put it like... Stuff like the Star Wars game we had very well could have fit in with the movies, I think. Like, it could have been a story on its own in the background.
Yeah, I mean, like, that story could have been better, but I got tired. Man, that game broke me.
And I understand that, but I'm just saying, like, that entire thing, it could have drawn that, you know, like, into that world pretty well.
Yeah, it could have been very integrated. Because in the end, it is a fucking Star Wars story, right? It is literally, this is how Star Wars stories are. You're like dudes fighting against a galactic threat. Bam, that's Star Wars.
Yeah.
You're good. There are no small stories in Star Wars. Everything is so interconnected, and like, oh, you gotta have. I didn't have Baby Yoda show up.
I think that's the thing.
I am better than Disney. That's I'm getting.
I think that's the thing is like, there are examples of smaller stories that can become larger ones, even in the Star Wars. But like, you know, you have to know. We've talked about the scale of the adventure you want to go on, and the thing is, using XYZ world, how you want to use it. You know, that also depends on the scale you want to do. You could use, like, hey, the Lord of the Rings RPG.
Yeah.
You're not there. That one. If you just pick that one up and you want to do a Lord of the Rings based story, there's probably just other things you can do that can be epic.
Like,
but
you're
like,
not Fellowship, but there is still a whole ass war going on.
it could be something involved that, you know, like, you avert some kind of crisis before the beginning of like the Return of the King. You know, something goes on that there's a threat to Gondor that no one really found out about that you help avert. You know, that would have undermined the city before.
You could be soldiers of Gondor doing something, and then at the end, your reward can be watching Denethor eat a tomato.
Yeah.
In a very uncomfortable scene.
That could be the end of it. It's like
that's the perfect end to your adventure, is watching Denethor eat a tomato.
You go through the
Denethor, right?
I can't remember names.
Whatever the king of Gondor's name is.
The asshole in charge of Gondor. He's technically not king. It's like regent or something stupid.
Dude who tries to light No, it's not Boromir.
Brother Boromir on fire.
Boromir's brother, Faramir.
God.
That guy. I've not seen those movies in about a
Their names are too similar. Thanks, Tolkien.
And one of them didn't exist in the original cut of the movies.
Thanks, Tolkien. But, you know, as I said, like, that's the thing is, like, that's Landomir.
Yeah, that guy.
Just taking these things and just figuring out ways to adapt them, whether or not it is like using a pre-existing system or making your own system, using another system. There are a lot of ways, and honestly, there are a lot of really cool stories and worlds out there that people built. Like, I like using Galarian. I don't mind using Faerun in the Forgotten Realms, you know?
Yeah. I mean, for your credit, you used Dominaria, although the party was bad.
Look, if the party was less bad as a whole...
You technically used Dominaria and it worked, right?
There was a lot more cooler stuff I wanted to do in different things, but honestly, like, the entire story went in a weird direction the entire time.
I was mentally checked out for, like, the last 10 sessions of that.
I think my ending was going to be much less epic, I'm going to say, my original way.
Like, anything that happened. Aside from the ending.
That's the thing is, like...
I remember not doing anything.
My idea was always going to be that in some kind of way, Volrath came back and was trying to, like, do something shady and evil. And, you know, the PCs would oppose him. But, like...
College for a year.
Oh, God. Asmokon was good. You know, that's...
Asmokon was fun. Good old Asmokon. Wrath was in fact a mental drain on everyone involved, except for the two people who wouldn't shut up.
It's one of those things that, like, I think overall the game had very good points. But yes, it was too long, and certain things drug on a lot. Yeah, like, definitely post-college, I managed to speed things up, but there was still some dragging that it was hard to get through at certain points. I feel like even post-college, I needed to speed it up even more. Like, post-college, they still didn't have a storyline. Because, like, they spent, you know, fucking a year and a half not getting a storyline.
They didn't do anything. They didn't do anything. Well, they did something. They were villains.
They were villains. And I think that's the thing, is that's adapting a world setting. That's like, you know, that's easy. I didn't really do any, like, actual storylines. I involved stuff that can generally be around the main storyline, because honestly, these people do a lot of fucking shit, you know? It's like, this random legendary character or planeswalker shows up. Why? They weren't doing anything. They've got, like, you know, years of storyline going on, and honestly, my entire thing was, you know, like, oh, hey, this big incident, maybe it let it open to, like, something happening in the future, aka your stupid Dominaria storyline that I wasn't a fan of then that you just did. Cough, cough.
Yeah.
I think the long and the short of it is, like, go ahead. You know, if you found something in another media source that you want to use in some kind of way, figure it out.
Yeah.
Don't go too far. Like, you can take the world, you can take the setting, you can try to, like, see if how the mechanics work enough that you can explain them. But don't go beat for beat in the final end. I think that's the thing is, like, the setting, take as much as you want. Mechanics, take as much as you're willing to adapt things.
Mm-hmm.
That storyline, or any of those storylines, that's the one I'm warning people on, you know? I feel like even in the little games that are small, so the PC more epic things than all of Wrath, or most of Wrath at least.
Well, that's because none of them ever did anything or wanted to do anything.
They just expounded their villainy and made megamaniacal plans to destroy the universe.
They made a dragon and then complained when people didn't like them anymore. That was what happened in that game. They resurrected a dragon and then were shocked that no one liked them anymore.
They invented... Not only did they invent the Draco Lich, they invented the cyborg Draco Lich. And then
why don't people like me anymore? They're so stupid. I didn't mess up the world or anything.
I didn't
Why
create
don't people like my box that ripped a hole in reality? I'm just like, yeah, they're so hard to explain to people sometimes of like, these are really, really bad things. Please don't do them anymore. Yeah, it's not like Dominaria has a history of holes being torn through reality.
Oh, God.
An crisis apocalypse over it or something. Jeez, I don't friggin' know.
Not another one. Oh, jeez. Every 5 minutes it's an apocalypse with you guys. Yes, you just caused another one. Technically, you created the possibility for another 2. Thank you very much.
Job, Kaz. This is why you were arrested.
Many times. I mean, honestly, you know, having the actual, like, demon person, because Mads likes to play tieflings, and tieflings don't really exist in Dominar. So I'm like, what are you? Some kind of horrible half-demon abomination. Congratulations.
Good job.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. I think that's a good place to leave that conversation off there, honestly. Just be careful if you're doing story adaptations. I think that's the big warning.
Story adaptations are like the hardest ones. They just the best rule of thumb is keep your story, the like canon story in the background, and have your players playing around it.
Yeah. That's the best way to do any kind of story. And like again, if you want to do a story that exists, beat for beat is fine. Just don't redo the actual story. You know?
There are very easy stories you could just run. Like, any story in the Fallout universe, you could just pluck away the actual canon character and throw a group of idiots and do it instead.
You can do the New Vegas storyline of, like, you know, your team gets...
It's such a simple story.
Your team gets betrayed, and then you have to kind of go on a quest line, honestly, to get... I guess... Would it be... Not revenge? I think it is revenge, technically.
It is revenge.
Yeah.
Technically, we can join him.
Yeah.
Get, like, in my opinion, like bad ending.
Yeah. Honestly, it's sort of like, it's that weird thing of, like, the endings just don't feel made equal.
Yeah, looks at my wall behind me with my new California flag. Gee, I wonder which faction I like.
I always thought about it because it was, like, achievements for doing the other... doing all the endings, but it's like one of those things is when I reached it, sort of like I just couldn't decide too, because sort of like
there's 5 endings.
Yeah, and like 2 of them I was like, I don't want to do these, and then the other 3 were like, well, that one's interesting. Like there's like, you know, yes, New California. That's really the nicest ending, honestly. That's like the good ending.
Only stable ending that you can give that region.
Like certainly you becoming Overlord. That's, you know, fine for a while, but also
for
like
about 50 years, and then until you kick the bucket.
Yeah. And you know, so I don't know. So yeah. So again, okay. What did we do this week?
What game?
There was a lightning game, wasn't there?
It was a lightning game.
What did we lightning game?
Oh, we went into Void World. And
We went into Void World.
Tower.
Yeah, I forgot we went into Void World.
Pursuit of the Dragon, man.
You ran a game too. We'll have to talk about that in a second.
And we found a journal, read it, and we left Void World.
Yeah.
Cleric's been temporarily insane, but that's, I mean, whatever.
Look, I'm gonna be completely honest. I am incredibly confused after Void World.
Void World. I know too much about Void World, because technically I made it.
Yeah.
Technically that's a contribution to the world I've made.
Thank you.
I know too much about it. And my favorite part about Void World is independently, Lightning and I both made flesh caves involved with Void World.
God damn it. So yeah, that was Adventures in Void World. And yes, I had Worms Traveler game, which was, I think it was okay. We got the team together, sort of. We're on someone else's ship as far as I can tell. Look, I was getting tired at the end of it, and like my character had rolled, like I rolled once and it was really shitty. Nice. And then there was a lot of like storyline that like I'm like I know nothing of this storyline. So that doesn't help me, you know, but it was fun. I think it was good. I think there will be more opportunities for my character to wake up and like, you know, do more. Literally, like, I had one die roll that... Fortunately, it wasn't a critical die roll. I rolled 2 1s and I had a -1 to that.
Nice.
So I had a 1.
Hell yeah.
That's really bad, you know?
Perfect roll.
And then everybody else was like, we're going to go do all these things. And I'm like, I'm not going to roll. I'm going to roll badly. And also, my character, the storyline had my leg getting shot off. So, like, it getting back on at the beginning of the adventure was, like, part of the entire thing. So I went to, like, rehab and stuff. Yeah, if you want to, Lightning, to jump in and talk about these things. Because then we did have a Tuesday game.
That Tuesday.
Yeah, gathering when no one has background or personality. It's like I kept myself really simple, and I thought it was enough that, like... I made a character that would have just been like, sure, I'll go along with that. Because, honestly, the easy thing of my character's background, because you do like the job system, is I just lost my fucking job. I don't have anything to do. I ended my character background when I like failed and was drummed out of the service I was in. So instead of doing another job, I'm like, well, I just fucking lost my job. I don't have anything to do. I'm very easy and convincible to join a team. You know, that was the good thing about that. Yeah, so if Lightning is... Oh, Lightning's here. Lightning, you want to talk about Jay's game?
I am here.
Yeah.
Oh, man. What did we do in Jay's game?
I started a workers' revolution. I'm pretty sure.
Team game always sucks.
I have totally forgot the whole game.
I remember bits and pieces. I know that we basically excluding you.
There was the awkward.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Oh.
We'll get to that.
Oh.
We're on horrible Hell Planet. This is like Hell Planet number 4.
Oh, good.
It's like Venus, but it's being mined.
Yeah.
So it's got toxic atmosphere.
By a bunch of indentured servants.
Yeah, you sign a contract and work for the contract, and then you get paid at the end of the contract.
Yeah. So basically, we started a workers' revolution, because we needed to save a slug person from the planet. I don't know how it got from save dude to workers' revolution. I kind of blacked out a little bit in between that.
I think it's because we hate the planet. Apparently,
we hate half the planets in this game.
We hate all of the planets we've been to.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, we've hated every planet we've been to. Like, well, the Cyberpunk planet was fine.
It was like
out of
too corporate.
It was the best out of all of the planets.
Yeah, but that's it's like, hey, you know what? I'm only getting slightly mauled in the foot by
Yeah,
this like
you know?
goldfish.
This is kind of nice comparatively.
Yeah, it is angry and it will eventually kill me, but I can tolerate it for now.
I'm just thinking of like, you know, this stale bread isn't so bad. It's much better than this, like, you know, piece of bread
poison.
covered in sewage.
This slow-acting poison is nicer than the fast-acting poison.
It's slightly uncomfortable here in that it's, you know, just below the boiling temperature of water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I murdered like 3 guards because I've had enough of this
That's
bullshit.
right.
I've had enough of this bullshit. Well, no, I murdered 2 guards, and then Jess's character punched a man in half.
One of the guards was found who had been stripped of his like EVA suit and crammed into a vent on a roof.
He was found.
I don't know how they found that man.
I don't know how that dude was found. It happened.
But they found him apparently.
Found that guy.
I heard the tales of the guy that was really hard to find, yet somehow was found.
I don't know how he got found. I killed like 2 other guards because I didn't intend for this character to be murder happy, but I've stopped caring. I'm done with this bullshit. I want to go somewhere fucking nice for once.
Too bad.
But no, apparently this half of the fucking sector is Hell Planet.
Oh, they're all bad.
And then Cell like infiltrated some like ruler's manor, and it got real weird, dude.
It's like, you know, he was into other dudes. Apparently his guard is one of his toys or something.
Yeah, one of his boy toys.
And Cell was flirting with the...
Cell had the weirdest... So this dude was like not in a position to really do anything because he was like busy, right? And Cell was like, I could just search this mansion for the thing we need, or I could have this elaborate plan where I pretend to be this dude I just murdered and try to seduce the owner of the mansion, only to then murder him once I've revealed myself as not this guy.
He survived getting shot, but then still took damage, technically, I guess, so he was like bleeding out on the floor.
It was a very strange and mildly uncomfortable...
Oh, it was very uncomfortable.
Sequence of events. So it was just weird. There were so many different plans you could have done, but you chose to seduce the alien.
We had this Wednesday game.
We had Wednesday.
I'm gonna side note here because while you were chatting, I was like checking something here. I was just like checking who went live on Twitch, and I did not realize they made a Wraith the Oblivion VR game. Wraith the Oblivion is World of Darkness.
Yeah, they did.
I didn't realize that until I just saw someone was doing it, and I'm like...
No, but they did make them.
Anyway, Wednesday, that was an interesting one. So you went on a trail of a slimy, slippery man known as the Eel. And I've got to be honest, like, you can fight this guy, honestly. But, like, when you read up on him, he's just in it for the money. He doesn't really have any kind of, like...
He doesn't want to die.
He doesn't want to die. And I'm like, God, you guys are... especially Yakul is kind of scary.
Yakul could probably 2-hit most people in this game right now.
Yeah. So sort of like... I'm like, okay. He's hiding out, waiting to get on one of the Pirate Lord's ships. And I'm like, okay, you're searching for him. And I'm like... Everybody made perception checks. No one found him. He approached the one person that would talk with him.
I mean, it's in character for him, I guess.
Yeah.
Make a deal.
Let's make a deal with a halfling.
He did make a deal with a halfling.
He was maybe mad about it or something.
He did want to murder
How
the
dare
guy.
You deal with halflings?
He does
They're the
most mortal
evil...
enemy, apparently.
Yeah. The mortal enemy of all humankind.
There is some
dragon kind.
I've read up in the next adventure a little bit, so there's some information that I presented in a way that's not quite correct, it seems like, but I can correct that and just adapt things in a little bit. So I will have to do that. It's just sort of like information I have in that book versus information they talk about in the next book.
That happens.
Because it's basically it's not as cut and dry on a relationship between Chelix and Harrigan.
That I assumed it wasn't like a...
Because he's particularly known for raiding Chelix vessels.
I assumed this halfling man just gave the bare basics to save his skin.
Yeah.
Because honestly, we never really pushed for anything more. Misty didn't give a shit.
I mean, like, there's a lot to, guesswork about how the relationship is, because, again, it's one of those things that Harrigan is actually known for in the Shackles, is raiding Chelix vessels and merchant vessels a lot.
Nuclear vessels?
So that's kind of like if he's doing that a lot, how is he in a relationship with Chelix? That's the question.
Yeah, and that's because... I think that's fine because we just get more information that enlightens us more. I think that's because I think it's fine to give your players slightly incorrect information so they can get more later. That's correct.
It could also be a splinter faction where it's like maybe it's some admiral dude who doesn't give a shit about certain people, and like he flies a slightly different flag, so Harrigan knows, don't raid those. They're our allies.
Who knows?
There are factions within Chelix, so that can be kind of thing.
So it could be he's allied with a faction in there. And they drop things like there's this one ship going here, and so he goes and raids. It's a Chelix ship, but it's hurting.
It could use to weaken another faction. So there's the thing is like I know they don't say a lot about it, and they detail a lot about what's going on a lot more and the complexities of everything going on in the next book. And so I have to get from point A to point B, and that's not always as easy. So honestly, because the beginning of the book throws you some big things that are going on, and then in book 5 here is interesting because it's a little more. It's half open ended. Something goes on, and then you have choices in the directions you go to, prepare for something going on in the background.
I think something. It's just in general is a thing I have with that game is I think. Especially because we're moving back to 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I think there needs to be more allotted time for our characters to actually interact and discuss things. Because a lot of the times, and the party is kind of a good example, is we were just moving from event to event without any time to actually discuss what's happening.
I try to give a lot of that at the beginning of the party where you were doing a lot of that stuff, but then it's kind of that's hard to pace out. Yeah. Because there was a lot of that at the start of the party.
Second part of the party is time sensitive.
In a way.
I think there needs to be a little more time for us to discuss what's going on.
Yeah. I think the thing for me was we had that big a lot of stuff at the beginning of the party, so it's kind of I didn't want the party to drag on that much. So it's trying to find the balancing act between those two things. It's just having it as simple as the book has it, which is here's some quick things, they occur, you're done, or here's a big party. What's going on? Who are you talking to? Who are you having conversations with? What's being developed? I think figuring out that balance is a challenge no matter what.
Yeah, because it's also a stream game, so we have to be mindful of progression as well.
I think that's the thing I keep fighting against, is figuring out when to push progression and when to a lot of extra time for things too.
That can certainly be difficult.
Yeah. Well, that's why I figured we'll have another session to kind of clean up things here.
The clean up aftermath session will be nice because there's a lot of things that need to be discussed.
Yeah. And I'll kind of leave the... do we have time to go looking for a Clockwork Adventure? Who knows? Maybe. I don't know.
Who knows? But yeah, the party was fun.
Yeah. I think it went relatively well. I hope the investigation wasn't too bad, because they don't really have very well descriptor of the encounter with the eel. It's more like he does some things. Maybe you find him, maybe you don't.
I think the investigation was fine, though. I was joking with Lightning. Is every time a check was failed, I would type, "It's really hard to let him escape." To Lightning.
Yeah, it's really hard for this guy to escape.
Yeah,
and then all these failed checks.
Check.
Every time a failed check, we message each other. It's really hard for him to escape.
Apparently not for your team.
It's not on anyone but the fucking dice.
Look, I gotta admit, like,
we roll so badly.
Like,
he had to reveal himself at the end. Otherwise, he would have just been like, haha, he gets away.
The thing is, like,
Really
with you knowing he's going to be on one of those ships, it wasn't really easy for him to get away, and that's the problem.
It genuinely wasn't. He was just in a fucking warehouse.
Yeah.
But he's a halfling. He could be inside one of the barrels.
You actually made it. Well, that's actually how he snuck in. One of the rum barrels was technically empty, and it was just him in there.
Yeah, there you go.
Fucking dumbass.
It's how he got it. He was just in one of the rum barrels.
Piece of shit. Those damn halflings.
Look, honestly, one of the best things you did is, like, in the game it's set up, if you do not find and or clear out that teleportation circle area in the underground, he puts his lab there. Because he has magic that he can slip through the cracks and stuff. And he's tiny. So it's sort of like, if you hadn't cleared that out, he would have just been under your noses the entire time, which it would have been a lot easier for him to escape. A lot easier to track him, though, technically, too.
He would have wanted that lab, I guess.
So he had different labs somewhere else that was easier to, like, I think it actually helped the story, honestly. Oh, jeez.
Thursday game.
Game.
That Lightning.
Oh, what? Me?
Yeah, it's your turn.
So, the week before this, not last week, we had the totally not a spaceship flesh cave.
Spaceship at all.
And then basically when that session ended, it was like slow clapping Fey person who had taunted Shabesh, or one of our totally not old man, but old man who's gonna die.
Okay.
And I was just like, all right, well, next session roll initiative because I'm just gonna kill that person because my character is basically a demon slayer. And so we started off in combat.
Yeah.
And she was like in a tree, so like no one except for me could actually like hit her, or unless they used range attacks. And we have 3 melee people, but I can fly. So we had the mage was shooting magic bullets, so it was just like a D8 or something. And then we had a monk throwing a spine javelin, a werewolf throwing javelins, and I don't remember what Casper was doing.
Casper was tolling the dead most of the time.
Yeah, and she kept making the save.
It actually worked quite a few times, but
I thought she made like almost all the saves except for like one.
Made about half of the saves until her dead. Unfortunately, she made all the saves in the high damage ones.
Ah.
Because that's how it works all the time.
Yeah.
Spine javelin?
Yeah, so context for that. In the ship, there was an enemy that just yeeted its spine at people.
Very Dead Space.
So Jess picked up the spines. They technically could be made into magical javelins.
Okay.
Their current form, it's just a spine.
The monster spine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jess is a very cursed character.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Jess is also partially undead now. Which is
that's fine, probably.
Good times.
Yeah, like that's not illegal,
I'll make them fill. I'll make them fill the undead later.
It's fine.
And then she used a weird staff and teleported us into the future or the past or something.
Teleported you somewhere.
We were in like a laboratory during this fight. And it makes sense. I'm just gonna be honest about It makes sense that the character would do this. But she used a spell to void a smite critical
God.
that
You
I
did,
did like
like-
30 or
No,
40
I
damage.
tell you, you did 42 damage on the crit. She had 82 health originally. So you did half her health in a single hit. She had 10 health left.
I was
She
so
wanted to-
mad. I was so
I felt a little
mad.
bad, but like, she wants to live. She would do this.
It perfectly makes sense for the villain to do that. I tend to not do big things towards the very end of a battle because it's like either they're going to surrender or they're going to die, right? I tend to do those things early to annoy the players, but it doesn't really change a whole lot. Or I tend to do them like half health or something when the character would, like, if it's a really high level boss or something, they might want to flee, right? They'll be like, oh, I'm going to use my things now because shit's getting serious. And it's just a different DM style, right?
Yeah, it's just, I tend to be very rough on my players when I run combats.
Yeah. I was also at like 6 hit points.
You were
For a lot of that
The
battle.
party got fucked up.
Yep.
As intended.
I think Shavesh went down.
Resh went down from fall damage.
Yeah.
And it led to, which is unfortunate because Lindsay is a cleric that doesn't really prep any healing spells.
Yeah, our healer isn't a healer, and
No,
I think I used my potion from the
No,
day.
Lynn prepped Prayer of Healing without realizing that it takes 10 minutes to cast, and then because Lynn didn't understand the spell, because I don't believe Lynn has ever played a cleric before, I'm like, you can swap it to like Healing Word. And that's what got Sadesh back up, because I was being kind, because I understand when you don't really know a class, you can definitely prep the wrong stuff.
Yeah.
I think they were not there for that the previous session, which was the start of a new day.
Yes, so
they could have had different spells.
They could have different spells. So I just allowed it because I'm like, you weren't here. You've never really played a cleric before.
Yeah. So I technically would have had. I don't think I would have had advantage on that attack. I think the next attack would have had advantage. But I got thrown into a different time again.
You got thrown into another time period. You time traveled twice, but you don't remember the second time. Is the important.
But yeah, I came back and I was like, "Oh, this bitch is gonna die now." And then
they tried to take her alive.
Yeah, the party suddenly changed their minds. And when we went back to the real world, and so I got grappled and I stabbed our monk because it was like, "Don't touch me."
Grappled in a way that didn't make a lot of sense.
No, because I would have been.
I gave it disadvantage, and like I should have attached a high DC instead of having you roll.
Yeah, because I would have been in the air, but I would have been flying down.
The way I had it was the grapple goes off when you both were closer to the unconscious person and closer to the ground, so it makes sense. But it's going to be really difficult, so I'm going to give you a disadvantage on trying to make the check. You both rolled really bad.
Yeah. And our cleric had buffed our snake lady to have, whenever they take damage, to do 2d10 plus their level or something. Or plus their wisdom mod. So then I got smitten.
You got nuked.
To low hit points. Which was amazing.
Very cool.
It basically deleted the potion that I used because I drank a superior health potion. And then I executed her and told our snake leggy to never touch me ever again, and then abandoned the party.
Yep, which I feel perfectly reasonable at that point. But you all eventually made it to the next city, where you met a cool owl dude.
He was a cool owl.
He was a cool dude.
He was also big. People are big here.
7 foot tall owl guy. And then you met a previous character from a different game that I've shamelessly stolen. The party met Jess's witch from Carrion Crown. And the bird that was very sassy. And I don't know what their plan was, but Jess and Lynn's character just kept insulting this woman, and I don't know what they were trying to do, but they just kept insulting her because they're so socially dumb.
Good times.
So that happened. Cell's character kind of salvaged it a little bit. She still doesn't like those two people, but like she likes Cell's character fine enough, so she'll interact with at least one of you.
You can interact with me later.
You interact with you because you're interesting. Then you met another character. You met the tiefling dude I played in Karen Crown.
Yeah.
I basically, because Karen Crown had a lot of good characters, like ideas. I'm kind of just gonna pull some of them into this game as NPCs.
They're just like mirror image universe people.
Yeah, Karen Crown never happened.
I don't know what game you're talking about.
They met those guys, and you found out that something's wrong with the count of this place, and you were asked to investigate it. And you're gonna make some kind of plan to do that.
I actually learned about that by talking with the owl dude.
You did.
Yeah.
You were asked to check to learn information.
Yeah, because I basically like mildly, subtly showed like my signet ring, which is like an ability
Almost
thing.
like your family is known as problem solvers and monster hunters.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, we have to figure out how to get into the keep. I came up with a.
We have to prep.
I came up with a pretty good plan, I think. I'm actually I might change it a little bit because I think Zoram turning into a rat I think is still a good idea.
You can turn into other animals.
Well, I mean, like a small animal or something, right?
You can
Something
turn
that can
into...
sneak in.
Yeah, easy enough.
But the shape change thing, we might be able to do it where she turns into Sam, because Sam can become invisible.
Yeah.
So she could walk in with us invisibly, and then when we're in like a corner area or something, she takes the form of like a guard or something, and then like Sam drops her invisibility, and then but that'd be like really it's the only thing that I realized as because I was kind of tired by the end of that game.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot of combat and a lot of lore drops.
Yeah.
You'll get more information next session to help you finalize your plans because your plan's not going to go off to like 2 sessions from now, honestly.
I mean, I figure basically we're gonna have like a request to meet, and then we're gonna like do a side quest while we get the okay, and then we'll have
like some stuff you need to technically find or want
because we definitely want to like get those weird shapeshifter herbs.
Yeah.
And that's really the only side quest thing that I think is like super important. Because I don't know if there's anything else we want to do.
You currently don't have anything in that town, in that city to do, because you were just gonna pass through that city to your next destination.
Yeah. It was kind of one of those things. We're gonna stop here.
Stop here, rest, resupply, move on.
Yeah. I think we wanted to also kind of like just get the I was gonna say vibe, the feeling of what's going on.
And it's kind of fucked a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, because we really know the northern town. I want to call it Ashmore.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we know what's going on up there and kind of the forest. We have I don't know if we really have an idea of the other place. We do know of someone there that we can talk to.
You don't know anything going on in Pharaoh Star. Grey Court, is something is wrong with the werewolf packs in that area.
Yeah, they're getting feral.
They're pissed off.
Yeah, so we have a kind of an idea of that area, but not as much local. I think that was mostly like we'll go here, we'll see if there's anything we need to do while we're here, but otherwise it's mostly just to stop to go somewhere else.
Yep, which is easy enough. I always planned for the next story beat to happen there anyways, so I knew you were going to be stuck there for a little bit.
Nice.
I don't know what happened in Friday's game. I didn't have internet that day.
Oh, so Friday is Cell's game. and we had it was basically there was a lot of BS in the beginning, because we hadn't talked in a week, right? So you chat sometimes, and then we were trying to figure out like, okay, well, how long is it? And I was like 16, just like I threw a random number out there, and so I was like took it seriously. I was like, oh, hang on, let me look at the calendar. I was like, I'm joking, Sal, but actually. My random number was really close. We were going to end up being in the town on the 14th or something, which was kind of weird. But we rolled a good event and a bad event for our travel. And we came upon this old dude at a like Standing Stones place, like just off like 100-something feet off the road. And I'm like, this dude's evil and he's going to summon shit. But it's really weird that it's right next to the road. But it just turns out he's just a weird old wizard or druid man or something. And it's just kind of like, okay, well, we'll talk to him for a bit. We learned a little bit of stuff. We might be able to get help from the druids if we, like, kill some horrible monster. Because the monster that Holt is going after, druids really hate monstrosities. So they're like, hey, if you kill that and, like, bring it to me as evidence... I can use the beast to make something. It's like, what? Really? Are you sure? But I think more importantly is that we can get help from the druids trying to figure out what's going on with this little invasion and stuff. But we got to the town, and it really had kind of like a Dragon Age and Witcher kind of vibe to it. Because there was like this really, really big like stone... bridge to go into town, and it also had like a raising area, like a wooden area that would raise up to allow like ships to go underneath it, which is like, that's cool as hell. I thought that was cool. But it was like a really, really long wait, and then we got into a conversation about like your gear and storage. Also, there were some people bad vibing us in front of us, and our halfling who spotted them didn't inform the party.
Nice.
So it's whatever. Only they know that people were eyeing us. And then we had a funny conversation with like all the weapons that Holt has. He's got like a javelin, a spear. He's got a long sword, a shield, 2 hand axes. A bunch of regular javelins and stuff. So we kind of had a funny moment there of entering the town because they do a thing where they tie off your sheaths. So it's like, we're not going to confiscate your weapons, but if you break them, we'll know, right? And then they'll probably like fine you or something. And so basically we went to find an inn. Valentine, apparently you ditched us to go meet your friend or whatever.
Yeah, fair enough.
And we got a inn that could stable our horse and donkeys. And then I was like, you know what? Who could really probably help us with fighting an ocean monster or whatever? Is the Raku. Which are ocean orc people. And so I went down to the docks. I failed like all my checks, and I'm like, all right, so it's fine. I failed. Let's move on. And it's like, no. You roll perception. It's like, oh, you just looked in the wrong area. It's like, fine, whatever. I guess we find them. And so, sound familiar?
I've been in situations like that where you have to figure out what to do because you're like, oh, those rolls are so bad, and like you.
Yeah, I think I rolled a 10. I think I rolled a 2 on my perception or something. It was like, wow.
I think the better just a side comment. Better way is if you want them to find it, just have them find it. Just have like maybe the check would have given you a bonus to something, or like give you some information.
Or it takes longer.
Yeah. Or it takes longer. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I tend to do.
No.
If I want something to happen, but I still want to roll, the roll isn't for if you find it or not. The roll is how quick you find it, because sometimes speed matter. So if you get late to something, it's like, oh, you're looking for this dude, right? You saw this dude leave the bar. He was looking sus as fuck, right? And the party's like, hey, let's go find him. And they fail the checks. Well, they're going to find him because it's plot relevant or something, or because he's, starting a fight or something. And then when the party finally gets there, the fight has already been going on for a couple of rounds, and he's like killed someone important, or like that person's injured, and the party can either like heal them you know, to try and like save them, or at least just try and take down the villain, you know.
Yeah.
There's ways you can kind of get something to happen while still involving roles and having like really minor consequences for like failing it, because it's like, you know, it's not like, oh well, you know, that guy came here, he assassinated the dude, and then he escaped, and well, I guess you guys just missed out because you know, rolled a 5. Too bad. But we did eventually find them, and this was the part that was what is why I mentioned later it was a great session, is because the character I'm playing, Yoshiko, is very like mild-mannered, soft-spoken, quiet. She doesn't talk a lot, and we get to the Raku, who are very boisterous, loud, and like community kind of people. You know, they live on a ship, right? The ship is the family, right? And so Cell starts off by role playing this Raku, the guy that I bump into, and he kind of has this like New Yorkish kind of vibe going on. But he's like, he's just kind of like loud and friendly and stuff. So I like lay into this like bad New York accent, which is like super not how Yoshiko talks. So it's just like, she's like, oh hey yo, my friend, let's go. And it was, I really laid into it, and everyone in the call is just busting up laughing at this, and Cell was having a hard time like keeping it up with the roleplay side. And so like we met all these like New Yorker half-orcs basically, and I was basically boasting about how good the party was, like, oh, we have this monster hunter dude, yeah, and the little one, she's like a super archer assassin, you know, and so I was really playing up the party, and he was like, well, you know, I can't, you know, I can't speak for the captain, but I can go talk to him, and it's like, yeah, no, I know, I get you, and so after that, I was getting kind of sassy a little bit, like, oh, it looks like you were really friendly with him, and it was back to like normally she goes like, oh yeah, that's kind of how they talk, you know, it's just, you know, it's just how they are. I kept getting like poked about it, and I was like, you know, I'm not gonna have this conversation anymore, and I'm like, Yoshiko leaves. And so we went back to the inn, and I don't think there was too much happening. But like these 3 Raku guys show up, and it's kind of like, I bet you that's the captain. And then Cell's like describing the guy, and he's like really big and tall. These guys are monsters. The dude's like 7-something foot tall, and he's like just built like a brick house or something. And Cell describes one of the guys as the guy that I met in the docks. I'm like, oh yeah, that's probably the captain or whatever. Before actually introducing him as the captain, and then he sees our party and goes right to us. And he spoke in like common, the Chevelin. And so he was like, yeah, I heard you guys are like really strong warriors and stuff, and you're gonna help us fight the sea monster. And he's like, let's do an arm wrestling so you can prove how strong you are. And so I'm like, yeah, let's make it more interesting. And I paid like a gold or something for like the strongest booze in the tavern. So if you lost, is what you should have said. If you lose, you have to drink. But they switched it over to if you win, you have to drink. So it's like, okay, yeah, that makes it more fair. And so, Halt went like feral bear mode rage to get advantage on all the checks. It went like back and forth. It was like fail 1, succeed 1, fail 1, or something. So he ended up winning, and then so he had to take a drink, and it failed like the DC 15 check. So he was kind of drunk, so he had disadvantage. But because he's raging, it just went to regular. And he won again, even though there was a nat 20 for the NPC guy. So it was like, oh shit, you know. And then, because it was just 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
And so then there was like this big, huge party after that. Lily got a nat 20 performance check on a perform. So like there's like a rock concert going on, and there's like these 2 big hulking men doing arm wrestling. So we like made bank off of just random people at that tavern. I think I got 7 gold, which I gave 2 to Halt, and Lily got like more than 10 gold and a couple platinum out of it. It's like we like got money. And we also figured out that the horrible crab monster that's attacking us, it's a chul.
Ah,
Yeah.
tools.
But yeah, it was short too. We only did like 2 hours. But it was fun, and
Yeah.
because of me with Momo,
My
it
internet
kind of made sense.
exploded, I guess. Didn't have internet. So since my internet went out, I was like, "Hey, my internet's out," and then I went to bed because I can't do anything.
Yeah. But that was it was a lot of fun. It was very silly. It was a lot more like, I wouldn't say classic D&D, because it wasn't just like, we go to things, we fight stuff. It was more like the a bunch of friends playing D&D and having a good time. It wasn't like, oh, there's all these major thoughts or thoughts, threats. I keep saying thoughts. I don't know why in my brain. There wasn't any major threats. It wasn't a big lore dump thing. It was just like people hanging out and having a good time. So it was fun.
Neat.
Cool. I guess that's it for today, then.
Yeah.
Thanks for popping in, Lightning, and joining us, for giving us these games that you and Momo were in.
Yeah, the Friday one was pretty bonkers. It was fun.
Thanks as usual, Momo, for joining for the entire show. Schedule? I'll finish up that Stellaris game. Honestly, I don't know how many more sessions of that I'm gonna have.
16.
Not that long. I gotta be honest. I will.
69.
I will have a tolerance of like. I think
6.9.
when it feels like I've conquered the universe, I'm gonna say no. Also, or like I'm in a position.
Yeah,
to
just
get
play
to that.
until the end game kills you.
Yeah.
It very well might. I don't know.
I don't know if they fixed the end game crisis things.
I was saying that my start wasn't a great start either, though, unfortunately. Just because I chose like everything from the new pack, and so combined together, you can play them. It just is like a little bit of challenge mode because I'm sorry, it's really cool. The Knights of the Tox God, they just are a little harder to get all the stuff set up for it. So I'll finish that though, and some more Pathfinder, Wrath of the Righteous. Should be finishing chapter 4, honestly. Then I can be angry when we get back to Galarian because I won't have the Crusade where I left it because they reset that for fuck you reasons, as far as I know.
Woo.
This game has such terrible decisions. Like, that's the thing, is like, it's like, I think I've said it. The entire storyline in the Abyss has been fun-ish, mostly, except for a couple of battles that kind of were stupid. But most of them have been fun on its own. But it's not connected to the story. Why am I here? I don't know. It's fun on its own. If this was its own thing, it would have been interesting. And I could complain about that for hours. More Buccaneers. Should hopefully be the season finale. That's the schedule. If there's a need for another episode, something crazy happened. I'm going to say that. Not that I say it can't. Oh, careful, Damien. You almost fell down there. Kept you up on the bed. Okay. I know you're getting old. It's harder to jump up on stuff, but that was very awkward.
You need a little kitty step thing.
I have stuff set up. There's like a box here that's in the middle that like is like halfway up my bed that she jumps up on, and she just had some trouble jumping up on the box today.
Oh jeez.
Her one back leg just didn't reach it. Like she got 3 legs up, and the last leg was just struggling a little bit. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of adorable and sad. Anyway. If there's anything else on the schedule, I don't know right now. I'll figure it out. Let people know. So I'm just gonna say for now,
Explosions.
probably. Bye for now. Thank you for joining again, Momo, Lightning, and everybody have a good rest of your weekend. Bye.